A great deal of environmental discussion is scientific. We constantly hear about emissions, particles, pollution levels, and the ozone layer. This provides us with essential information, and we have become familiar with the terminology, but it does not move us emotionally. Today, we tend to use the term myth rather vaguely to mean something that is not true. When we hear of gods walking on the earth, a dead man striding out of his tomb, or a sea parting to release an enslaved people, we dismiss these tales as only myths. But in the past, myth meant something entirely different. For most of human history, there were two ways of thinking, speaking, and acquiring knowledge about the world: mythos and logos. Both were essential to comprehending reality. They were not in opposition to one another, but complementary modes of arriving at truth, and each had its special area of competence. Mythos was concerned with what was considered timeless. It looked both back to the origins of life and culture, and inward to the deepest levels of human experience. It was concerned with meaning, not practical affairs. Humans are meaning-seeking creatures. If our lives lack significance, we fall very easily into despair, and it was mythos that introduced people to deeper truths, making sense of their moribund and precarious lives by directing their attention to the eternal and universal. As far as we know, cats do not agonize about the feline condition, worry about the plight of cats in other parts of the world, or try to see life from a different perspective. But from a very early period, humans felt compelled to devise stories that enabled them to place their lives in a different setting and give them a conviction that, against all the depressing evidence to the contrary, life had some meaning and value. A myth is an event which in some sense happened once, but which also happens all the time. Mythology points beyond the chaotic flux of historical events to what is timeless in human life, helping us to glimpse the stable core of reality. It is also rooted in what we call the unconscious mind. Myths are an ancient form of psychology. When people told tales of heroes descending into the underworld, struggling through labyrinths, or fighting with monsters, they were bringing to light fears and desires from the obscure regions of the subconscious mind, which is not accessible by purely logical investigation, but has a profound effect on our experience and behavior. Myth could not be conveyed by rational proof. Its insights were intuitive, like those of art and poetry. What's more, myth became a reality only when it was embodied in rituals and ceremonies, enabling participants to apprehend the deeper currents of life. Myth and ritual were so inseparable that it is a matter of scholarly debate which came first. Without spiritual practice, the mythical story would make no sense, in rather the same way as a musical score remains opaque to most of us until it is interpreted instrumentally. We are far more conversant today with logos, which is quite different from mythical thinking. Unlike mythos, logos corresponds to objective facts. Logos is wholly pragmatic. It is the rational mode of thought that enables human beings to function. It is the basis of our modern society. We use our logical powers when we want to make something happen, to achieve something, or to persuade others to adopt a particular opinion. Where myth looks back to origins, logos forges ahead, develops new insights, and invents something fresh. It also, for good and ill, helps us to achieve greater control over the natural environment. But logos, like mythos, has limitations. It cannot answer questions about the ultimate value of human life. It cannot assuage our sorrow. It can unveil wonderful new facts about the physical universe and make things work more efficiently, but it cannot explain the meaning of life. From a very early period, Homo sapiens understood this instinctively. He used logos to develop new weapons and hunting skills, and he turned to myth, with its accompanying rituals, to reconcile him to the inevitable pain and grief that might otherwise overwhelm him. Before the modern period, both mythos and logos were regarded as essential. But by the 18th century, the people of Europe and America had achieved such astonishing success in science and technology that they began to discount myth as false and primitive. Society was no longer wholly dependent on a surplus of agricultural produce, like all previous civilizations, but relied increasingly on technological resources and the constant reinvestment of capital. This freed modern society from many of the constraints of traditional culture, whose agrarian base had always been precarious.